Welcome to my channel. What if an old F-16 could outfly America's most advanced stealth fighters? When a dismissed pilot challenged 4 Raptors to a suicide drill, no one expected what happened next. In just 28 minutes, she rewrote the rules of modern air combat and exposed a secret the Pentagon never wanted revealed. They called it a joke before I even finished my sentence. No stealth systems on an F-16, Major Douglas Grant declared to the ready room at Ridgeview Air Station. All smug bravado and authority. That's physics, not fantasy. The laughter that followed was the kind you don't forget, sharp, dismissive, and all-male. I sat quietly, arms crossed, letting them enjoy the sound of their own ignorance. I'm serious, I repeated. Put me up against your stealth unit. One F-16 against 4 Raptors. I'll down every one of them before they see me. That got Captain Ryder Blade Kincaid's attention. He leaned forward like he was sizing up a bar brawler. You want to run a red flag sim against my whole flight? Exactly that, I said, staring back. Dead in 5 minutes, Barnes, he smirked. Hope you like humility served hot. They thought I was bluffing. I didn't care. I'd heard worse at every stage of my career, from the academy to Ridgeview. No one believed a woman pilot in a 30-year-old jet could rewrite what they thought they knew about radar warfare. But none of them knew what I had under the hood, or who taught me to fly like that. My name is Captain Adrian Barnes, 31, Ridgeview's maintenance hangar ghost with the flight record nobody seemed to read. Auburn hair tucked tight under my cap, eyes trained on the horizon, and a habit of vanishing every weekend into a patch of Arizona desert nobody ever asked about. That desert was the key. It held my father's secret, the place where he'd built what the government shelved and forgot. Not stealth tech, not exactly. Something leaner, smarter. Techniques and field modifications built from physics and intuition. Tricks for controlling what radar sees and when. Let's make it official, Kincaid said, standing. Tomorrow's drill. Your F-16 against my stealth flight. You lose, you admit to the whole squadron that this was pure fantasy. And if I win? I asked, already knowing I would. You won't, he said with a grin. Later that night, I drove into the desert like I always did, 45 minutes past the grid, off any chart the base kept. Buried beneath rock and steel sat my modified F-16C Block 50. Ordinary on the outside, but inside, signature control surfaces, radar dampening coatings, timing circuits that pulsed just enough interference to fake echoes and blind sweeps. All of it designed by my father, a man they once called Phantom Hawk before the black projects buried him too. Real stealth, he always said, isn't about disappearing. It's about choosing when and how you appear. And tomorrow, I'd prove it, on the record. At 0800 hours sharp, I taxied onto the runway in my F-16, call sign Wraith 1. The control tower crackled to life, thick with skepticism. Wraith 1, you're clear for takeoff. Good luck, you'll need it. I smiled. They thought this was suicide. They were about to witness something closer to resurrection. The scenario was simple. 4 F-22 Raptors, flown by Ridgeview's elite stealth squad, led by Captain Kincaid. Their goal, destroy a high-value target simulated deep in training range Sierra 9. My job, stop them. Alone. Every pilot on base expected it to be over in 10, maybe 15 minutes. I'd bet on 28. My kind of flying doesn't work fast, it works right. As soon as I was airborne, I dove to 500 feet, hugging the jagged contours of the Arizona canyons. My radar profile flattened, vanishing into ground clutter. This was where they always got it wrong. Stealth wasn't just what the enemy couldn't see. It was what they chose to ignore. Meanwhile, the Raptors cruised at 30,000 feet, certain of their advantage. Blue flight, initiate intercept run, came Kincaid's voice over the open channel. Target won't see us coming. I was already watching them. From 40 miles out, I cycled my radar echo using pattern distortion. My jet registered as migrating birds, static bursts, false cloud scatter. If anyone was looking, they'd think the desert had grown a heartbeat. Picking up some anomalies, came the voice of Captain Yasmin Spectre Duval, Raptor 3. Echoes don't make sense. Kincaid brushed it off. Focus on the objective. Wraith 1's probably still searching for her courage. I smiled again. I wasn't searching. I was hunting. I climbed swiftly to 36,000 feet, just above their flight path, still masked. Their formation spread, classic stealth pattern. I watched, invisible, waiting. At 0815, I pounced. I came in hot from above, full afterburners, radar emissions cycling in phase with their own. 2 missile locks, 2 clean launches. The controllers barely had time to speak. Blue leader down. Blue 2 down. Kincaid's voice broke in, hard with disbelief. Where the hell did she come from? She wasn't on any scope. But I was already gone, diving fast, dragging my radar signature back into noise like a phantom retreating into fog. From the ground, I heard laughter, nervous laughter, from the control booth. Blue 3 and 4 split wide, trying to flush me out with overlapping skin patterns. Classic textbook response. But I didn't play by their book. I surfaced again 15 miles east, just long enough to show a clean trace. They bit. Duval and Captain Rafik, Noble, Shah veered off, full pursuit. They hit empty sky. She's playing games, Noble growled. Ghost traces. No, Duval replied. She's not playing. She's writing the rules. And just like that, I was above them again, dropping fast, silent death on wings. Altitude was my ally. The F-16 isn't built for high-ceiling dominance, but that didn't matter. Not if you knew how to cheat gravity. From 40,000 feet, I dropped like a stone. Speed, 750 knots. Angle, 72 degrees. Radar trace, fragmented, flickering. The Raptors' sensors couldn't lock. Their computers kept recalibrating. Too late. Duval tried for a visual. I caught a glimpse of her banking hard left, missile tone screaming in her headset. She never saw the launch. My simulated kill marker flashed clean on the HUD. Blue 3 down. The controller called out. Seconds later, Noble spotted me, but his system still couldn't confirm a lock. My signal scattered mid-dive, too erratic to trace. I rolled into a corkscrew maneuver my father taught me. He called it the dislocator. It bent my radar return just enough to make the targeting AI lose faith. Missile away, Noble yelled. But the shot veered right, chasing a ghost. My own missile left the rail at 12,000 feet. Blue 4 down. And then, silence. The control tower didn't speak. Neither did the Raptors. The entire operation had just been dismantled by what they had considered a relic, me. I leveled out at low altitude again, skimming the desert floor, my pulse steady. 28 minutes. No radar confirmation for more than 90 seconds total. 0 damage taken. I circled once more for effect and returned to base. When I taxied onto the tarmac, the entire base was waiting. Mechanics, staff, even flight instructors who hadn't shown up to a red flag drill in years. Colonel Grant stood front and center, his arms crossed, mouth tight. I powered down, opened the canopy, and climbed out. I expected the lecture. A violation of procedures, unauthorized modifications, probable court-martial. Instead, Grant lifted a crisp salute. Captain Barnes, he said, voice even. I owe you an apology. I saluted back, silent, letting the weight of that moment stretch. You've just forced us to rethink everything we teach about stealth. Behind him, Kincaid approached slowly. His helmet still under one arm, his ego a little less so. I want to learn it, he said simply. Whatever you did, teach me. And just like that, the war changed. Not with a bomb, not with a new weapon, but with a woman in an old jet who refused to believe in limitations. Back in the desert, where no one from Ridgeview dared follow, I stood beside my father's old notebook. Handwritten diagrams, frequency patterns, analog computations, things the military had abandoned in favor of digital certainty. He'd never believed in absolutes. Technology fails, he used to say, but understanding doesn't. They called him Phantom Hawk in the early days, one of the minds behind Black Tier programs, systems so advanced they became invisible even to their creators. When he died, his work vanished too, buried under redacted files and silent contractors. Except I kept it, and I applied it. I didn't retrofit the F-16 with stealth plating. I adapted how it talked to the world. Radar deception wasn't about vanishing. It was about sculpting perception. My father taught me how to be deliberate with signal echoes, how to mimic ground scatter, how to bend a radar pulse just enough to be ignored. And now, after today's red flag, Ridgeview had no choice but to acknowledge that. That night, Colonel Grant called me into his office. No reprimand. No suspension. Just a single sheet of orders, transfer to advanced tactical development, effective immediately. You'll be teaching this, he said. These techniques. We can't afford to pretend they don't exist. He paused before signing. You said your father designed these? He designed the principles, I said. I just figured out how to fly them. Grant nodded slowly, face unreadable. Then, as if from nowhere, I flew once with Phantom Hawk. Back in '98. He had ideas no one dared use. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He signed the order, then offered me his hand. Welcome to the real front line. Within 6 weeks, I was standing in a new hangar, in front of a new squadron, pilots handpicked from across the country. Among them, Ryder Kincaid, now wearing a different expression, one of respect. He'd volunteered for the program the day after our red flag. I want to learn everything you did, he told me. You're going to learn more than that, I replied. You're going to learn what it means to fly invisible, not because of your plane, but because of your mind. I had no idea at the time how far that lesson would spread, or how many pilots would soon trade their faith in gear for something far more powerful. Instinct, timing, disruption. Everything I'd learned, I would now pass on. Teaching wasn't the hard part. Unteaching was. Every pilot in my first class had come from elite ranks. F-22 drivers, drone warfare experts, even a couple F-35 program golden boys. They were used to fighting like systems engineers, not predators. I started day one with a single line on the whiteboard. Radar only sees what you let it. Most of them looked at me like I'd stepped out of a philosophy lecture. Kincaid was the only one who didn't smirk. That made sense. He'd been hunted by me. Over the next 4 weeks, we rewrote everything. Standard dogfight playbooks went in the trash. They learned how to dance with radar, not dodge it. How to create echo illusions using terrain. How to fake velocity trails that split off from their real positions. We used weather fronts like cloaks. We bent EM scatter like brushstroke art. I taught them signal rhythm. How a steady trace becomes a pattern, but a flicker becomes doubt. Doubt, I told them, is your strongest stealth system. You make your opponent hesitate once, and you've already won the fight. Lieutenant K. Slinger Matthews, an F-22 pilot from Langley, took to it faster than anyone. This isn't just stealth, she said during one drill. This is mind war. I nodded. Exactly. It's not just hiding, it's manipulation. Matthews became the first to score a simulated triple kill using a terrain echo mislead technique I'd named the switchback. She flew a ridge line at 300 knots, pinged a short burst from her radar, then dipped into a canyon. The trace she left made it look like she climbed. The kill zone lit up above her while she coasted beneath and struck from below. Perfect execution. By week 5, we had plain F-16s destroying Raptors and F-35s in exercises, without upgrades, without cheats. Just pure tactics. Word spread. Fast. Requests poured in. Marine pilots. Navy test flyers. Even a civilian aerospace team wanted observers sent. But I wasn't interested in PR. I was interested in results. By the 6th week, every pilot in the program had pulled off what used to be considered impossible, radar evasion with hardware that wasn't designed for it. My trainees learned to see radar not as detection, but as conversation. You don't just go silent, you change the dialogue. That's when I got the message. A classified memo. Pentagon SEAL. They wanted the full breakdown of my father's techniques for integration into Air Force doctrine. It should have felt like victory. Instead, I felt the weight of what came next. The Pentagon's request came wrapped in praise, cloaked in urgency. They wanted to adapt my father's methods into a doctrine-wide strategy. Standard issue. Fully classified. Across multiple squadrons. My name, along with his, would be etched into the technical manuals handed to every pilot in advanced flight school. But I said no. Instead, I asked to remain at Ridgeview. Why? Because doctrine breeds complacency. What we were building here wasn't a checklist, it was a mindset. You don't memorize what I teach. You become it. And you can't do that from a manual. Colonel Grant didn't argue. He simply nodded. You'd rather make warriors than write textbooks, he said. Exactly, I replied. And so, I stayed, running the program, hand-selecting pilots, refining the art. Every week, more names applied. But only a few made it in. Not the ones with perfect scores. The ones who knew how to ask why the book said what it said, and who weren't afraid to throw the book away. Then came the real test. General Lorna Adair, commander of Pacific Air Command, called in a challenge. She was bringing her F-22, the most advanced one in the fleet, to Ridgeview. She wanted a live drill. Me versus her. One engagement. First confirmed missile lock wins. If your methods hold up, she said bluntly, we'll build training centers around them. Worldwide. I agreed instantly. We scheduled the match for a Tuesday. Clear skies. Minimal wind. Open desert airspace. Her jet was a monster, digitally pristine, weaponized with cutting-edge sensor fusion and predictive AI. Mine. Standard F-16. No modifications. No tech advantage. Just my mind, my timing, and what I'd learned in a lifetime of being ignored. Adair launched first, disappearing behind stealth systems I helped pioneer, systems now programmed to anticipate fighters like me. I launched 10 minutes later. Terrain masking, signal flicker, atmospheric bounce. I used every trick my father taught me, and a few I discovered on my own. For 14 minutes, she hunted shadows. Then I struck, from behind and below, invisible until the moment of lock. Blue leader down. Exercise complete. It took her 5 minutes to land. 10 to speak. You just beat the most advanced fighter on Earth, she said, stepping toward me on the tarmac. How? Because stealth doesn't live in the aircraft, I told her. It lives in the mind. General Adair stood silent for a long time after I said it. It lives in the mind. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, were now measuring something deeper than tactics. She wasn't just a commander anymore. She was a believer. You've just invalidated billions in stealth R&D, she said softly. No, I replied. I've just reminded you it's only part of the equation. By nightfall, a new directive was signed. I was promoted to lieutenant colonel. The Ridgeview program was renamed Advanced Tactical Innovation Center, and I was given full autonomy, curriculum design, pilot selection, operational doctrine. My only orders, teach them what you know. The news went wider than I expected. Within days, requests for enrollment hit triple digits. But I held the line. Only a handful would be admitted. This wasn't about scaling, it was about forging. We didn't call it training. We called it deconstruction. We erased every reflex the tech had taught them, made them fly by feel, by instinct, by terrain shadow and wind echo. We turned weather into a weapon. We turned radar into a negotiation. And we built warriors. Captain Sloan Rivas, a combat-proven F-35 pilot, failed her first 3 sessions. She was too dependent on AI support, her scans too predictable. But she didn't give up. She came back every day, every night. On her 4th week, she scored a kill against a stealth drone using nothing but a borrowed F-15 and a thunderstorm. I heard her missile-lock tone, she said after. But she never saw mine coming. Rivas wasn't the only one. By month 3, standard fighters, F-16s, F-18s, even aging A-10s, were outperforming next-gen stealth aircraft in simulations. Why? Because they had learned to disappear on command. Not through tech. Through timing, deception, and sheer audacity. The Pentagon started quietly testing my methods across different branches. Navy squadrons adapted our vertical loop misdirection. Marine aviators picked up our echo-masking routines. Even civilian test pilots were requesting classified briefings. But here's the truth they couldn't put in a memo. We weren't teaching flying. We were teaching invisible thinking. The real breakthrough didn't come in a simulation. It came during a live exercise over the Baja Shelf. I deployed a team of 5 pilots, 2 F-16s, 1 F-15E, and 2 F divided by a -18s, against a stealth-equipped adversary squadron simulating enemy aggressors. Their opponent? A mixed wing of F-35s and drone-assisted Raptors flown by the best Navy had to offer. The F-35s were confident, cocky even. Their systems could detect heat signatures from 50 miles. Their software ran predictive kill trees. To them, this was just another tech-fueled cakewalk. What they didn't know was that my pilots weren't playing by any manual. They masked their entries using storm clouds and false echoes. They dragged their radar prints into weather bands. They shaped their EM emissions to mimic thermal turbulence from volcanic vents. By the time the enemy picked up their signatures, it was too late. The kill feed lit up. 5 hostile eliminations in 9 minutes. Not one of my pilots was seen before the final shot. That's when General Adair flew in again, this time unannounced. She sat in on a debrief with silent intensity, then pulled me aside. "They're calling your program the Wraith Doctrine," she said. "It's spreading." I nodded. "It's not a doctrine. It's a mindset." "Semantics," she said. "What matters is this. You've turned legacy aircraft into precision ghosts. Pilots who flew like software now fly like shadows." She paused. "But they're not just mimicking you anymore. They're adapting, creating their own tricks." Exactly what I'd hoped for. I wasn't building replicas of myself. I was building innovators. Every time a student added a new wrinkle to the technique, like Rivas using solar glare for misdirection or Kincaid timing his trace to mimic a dying system pulse, I felt my father's presence behind me. He would have called it elegant chaos. We were proving that technology didn't own the future. The mind did. And across Ridgeview, the air had changed. You could feel it, in the way pilots walked, in the way instructors spoke in briefings. The arrogance of certainty was gone. In its place, the sharpness of curiosity, the thrill of uncertainty, the knowledge that the edge isn't built, it's imagined. By the time we reached the program's 6th month, the change was undeniable. Pilots from every major branch cycled through Ridgeview. They arrived expecting lectures and left carrying blueprints for a new way of thinking. Not just tactics, but perception control, psychological warfare, even flight path improvisation that defied every rule of engagement. They were calling us the Ghost School now. I didn't mind. It was General Adair who finally said what no one else would. "You've made stealth obsolete." But it wasn't about the aircraft, it was about how pilots used them. We didn't need multi-billion-dollar stealth frames anymore. We needed minds unchained by systems thinking. We needed pilots who could weaponize doubt, leverage terrain, manipulate sensor data like it was theater. The final proof came during a joint NATO exercise over northern Nevada. My team, 4 F-16s and a lone A-10 flown by one of our graduates, faced a multinational wing equipped with advanced Eurofighters, Rafales, and 2 stealth drones controlled by an AI system NATO had dubbed Predicto. On paper, we were already dead. In the air, it was a massacre for them. My pilots vanished into the high desert canyons, spun radar feedback using harmonic disruption, and used thermal reflections from salt flats to confuse the drone's heat tracking. The entire exercise lasted 21 minutes. Predicto never registered a single lock. Back at the command tent, the NATO general stood speechless over the debrief screen. He looked at me, then said, "What the hell are you people?" I didn't give him the long answer. Just this. Pilots who stopped flying by the book. Ridgeview's secret hangars were now referred to in hushed tones across the Air Force. What started as an experiment had turned into a quiet revolution. I still drove out to the desert every weekend. Back to that old hangar where it all began. The notebook still sat there. My father's words still clear, still untamed. He was gone, but his legacy echoed louder now than ever. He used to say, "Real flight is more than wings and thrust. It's the war between visibility and imagination." He wasn't wrong. Years from now, when they write about the evolution of modern air combat, they'll mention Ridgeview. They'll cite red flag drills, doctrine shifts, and a woman who beat 4 stealth Raptors with a legacy jet. Maybe they'll name the doctrine after me. But the ones who were there, who felt it happen, will remember it more simply. They'll remember a moment. 28 minutes of impossible flying. A pilot in an F-16 who didn't vanish with technology, but with choice. General Adair's final report said it best. "We believed stealth was built into hardware. We were wrong. Stealth is now something you do, not something you have." Today, Ridgeview's program has cells in 5 countries. The techniques, what we called signature control, radar dialogue, disruption theory, are taught under new acronyms, buried deep in war colleges and elite programs. But I'm still here, still teaching. Because for every brilliant pilot who walks in with a perfect record, there's another like I once was, quiet, overlooked, underestimated. The kind who doesn't need to be told where the edge is. They're going to redraw it themselves. Captain Kincaid is now my XO. He says it often. She didn't just change how we fly, she changed how we think. And maybe that's what I'm proudest of. Not the kills, not the stats, but the ripples. Lieutenant Raven Kim, a pilot who once thought she'd never rise past average, now leads a training cell of her own. She teaches weather-based misdirection, says clouds are the best allies we never used. Captain Sloan Rivas mentors Navy aviators on EM cycling. She calls it dancing with static. And the students keep coming. Curious, bold, reckless in the best ways. They say stealth is the art of not being seen. But I say it's more than that. It's about controlling the moment you're seen. It's about reshaping what your enemy believes. It's about knowing that the most powerful system in the sky isn't made of carbon fiber or AI. It's made of a pilot who refuses to fly inside the lines. So if you ever see a dot on radar that vanishes before you can lock, or if you swear something just moved through a no-fly zone, but all the sensors say otherwise, remember this. We're still out here, flying not to be seen, but to prove what the world forgot. That creativity will always outmaneuver certainty. And the sky? It belongs to those who dare to vanish on their own terms.